My beloved brothers and sisters, there will be times in your life when everything feels loud. People's opinions, your doubts, the chaos of the world, it all rushes in. And in those moments, the most powerful response is not to speak louder, not to argue harder, but to be silent. To turn inward, to listen not to the noise around you, but to the voice of your soul and the whispers of your Lord. Silence is not weakness, it's strength. The ability to hold your tongue when your heart is aching, to stay composed when everything inside you wants to react. That's not passivity. That's power. The Prophet taught us this. When insulted, he responded with dignity. When mocked, he chose silence, because silence grounded in trust is more eloquent than 1,000 words. Focus within. We spend so much time watching other people's journeys, comparing, criticizing, commenting, but your greatest battlefield is not out there, it's within your own heart. Cleanse it, heal it, talk to Allah before you talk to people. Ask yourself, am I reacting to life or am I reflecting through it? You see, not every emotion needs expression, not every thought needs to be shared. Sometimes your silence is your elevation, because it means you're busy having a conversation with the one who knows what you're not saying. And then comes trust. This is not just a concept. Tawakkul, trust in Allah, is a lifeline. It's what gets you through the storm when you can't see the shore. It's what keeps your hands raised in dua, even when your heart is heavy with unanswered prayers. Understand this. Allah's plan for you is already written. Every delay is divine. Every heartbreak is a redirection. When something doesn't make sense to you, it's because it's making sense in the heavens. Don't rush the catter, don't force clarity. Growth often comes in silence. Healing begins when you stop asking why me, and start saying, Ya Allah, guide me. Some of the greatest victories in your life will be the ones no one sees. The dua you made at 2 a.m. with tears in your eyes. The moment you forgave someone who never apologized. The time you chose patience over vengeance. These silent battles bring the loudest victories. And when you feel like giving up, remember the prophets. They were rejected, humiliated, abandoned, but they never gave up on Allah, and Allah never gave up on them. So stay silent, not because you are voiceless, but because your silence is full of remembrance. Focus within, because your heart was made to be a garden of hikr, not a battlefield of doubt, and trust Allah's plan, because what is written for you will reach you, even if it has to pass through the impossible. May Allah grant us the strength to be still, the clarity to reflect, and the faith to trust in His divine wisdom. Ameen. Silence is often misunderstood in our noisy world. We're conditioned to think that the louder voice wins, that the fastest reply is the smartest, and that silence means weakness or defeat. But in truth, silence, when chosen with intention, is a sign of deep strength, maturity, and spiritual grounding. It is not silence of indifference, but silence rooted in trust, dignity, and wisdom. There are moments in life where words only add to confusion. Speaking impulsively, especially in anger or pain, can damage relationships, cloud judgment, and lead to regret. In contrast, silence allows space for thought, for prayer, for mercy. It is the pause that protects us from saying what cannot be taken back. The one who remains silent when provoked isn't weak. They are strong enough to control their ego. The Prophet would often remain silent when others would insult or harm him. He knew that silence could speak louder than arguments, and that trusting Allah to handle the situation was more powerful than defending oneself unnecessarily. When you're silent, it doesn't mean you're helpless. It means you're relying on the one who hears all, sees all, and knows all. There is a silence that comes from arrogance and pride, but the silence we're speaking about here is different. It's the silence of the one who holds their tongue out of fear of displeasing Allah. It's the silence of the person who chooses to step back, reflect, and let the storm pass. It's the silence of someone who knows that the hearts of people are not in their hands, and that changing a situation is not always in their control. Sometimes silence is your best form of dua. It's the moment you close your eyes, lower your gaze, and speak to Allah in your heart while the world demands your reaction, and Allah responds. Because while others may not see your silence as strength, He sees the discipline behind it, the sincerity inside it, and the patience that flows through it. The strongest people are not always the ones who speak the most. Sometimes, the strongest people are those who choose silence with grace, who let their actions speak, who cry in sujud rather than complain to creation, and who trust that Allah will take care of what they cannot explain. In a world where everyone rushes to speak, the believer finds power in restraint, and that restraint, that silence, becomes a shield. a sign of spiritual strength that draws one closer to Allah and farther from the chaos of the dunya. Reflection is one of the most powerful tools a believer possesses, yet it's often overlooked in the rush of daily life. In a world that moves fast, where we are constantly reacting, scrolling, commenting, and comparing, the ability to pause and look inward is both rare and essential. It is in those quiet moments, away from distractions, that true transformation begins. When you reflect, you hold a mirror to your soul. You stop blaming the world and start asking yourself real questions about your purpose, your actions, your intentions, and your connection with Allah. It's easy to point fingers, to focus on external problems, but reflection forces you to take responsibility. It shifts the focus from "what are they doing to me" to "what is Allah trying to teach me?" The heart needs silence to speak, and reflection is the language it speaks best. In those moments of stillness, when you're alone with your thoughts and you ask yourself, "Am I growing closer to Allah or drifting away?" That's when growth begins. You start to notice where your heart has become hardened, where your ego has taken control, where your priorities have shifted. You begin to see the flaws not in others but in yourself, and that's not weakness, that's the beginning of strength. Reflection connects you to sincerity. It strips away the performance, the masks, and the public image. It's just you and Allah. No filters, no justifications, just honesty. And in that honesty, there's healing, because only when you recognize what's broken can you begin to ask Allah to fix it. Only when you recognize your need for Him can you start truly turning back to Him. The greatest people of faith were people of deep reflection. They didn't rush through life. They took moments to pause, to observe, to question, and to weep in private. Their connection with Allah wasn't built in public speeches or loud declarations. It was built in silent nights, sincere du'as, and thoughtful repentance. When you take time to reflect, you align your heart with your purpose. You begin to realize that every trial you faced had a lesson, every delay had wisdom, and every moment of pain was a chance to return to Allah. You understand that reflection is not about regret, it's about redirection. It's not about being stuck in the past, but about learning how to move forward with more clarity and more faith. In the end, the power of reflection is that it leads to action. Not impulsive reaction, but intentional steps guided by awareness, humility, and a desire to please Allah. It makes you slower to judge, quicker to forgive, and more compassionate toward others, because you've spent time understanding yourself. And most importantly, it makes you aware of your own need for Allah. That awareness, born in reflection, is what keeps the heart alive. We live in a time where reaction is almost automatic. Someone says something offensive, we respond instantly. A post irritates us, we comment without thinking. A headline provokes us, and we form an opinion before verifying the facts. This is the culture of reaction, a world that rewards speed over wisdom, noise over depth, and emotion over principle. But Islam teaches us something entirely different. The believer is not reactive but reflective. There's a difference between responding with purpose and reacting with emotion. Reaction culture is driven by ego. It tells you that you must always have the last word, that silence means defeat, and that every wrong must be corrected in public. But this mindset erodes patience, fuels anger, and distances the heart from Allah. Avoiding reaction culture is not about being passive or indifferent. It's about choosing your battles with sincerity. It's about recognizing that not everything deserves your energy, not every insult requires a reply, and not every opinion needs your response. When you constantly react, you hand over your peace to the world. But when you pause, observe, and respond only when it's necessary and for the sake of Allah, you take back control of your heart. The Prophet was surrounded by provocation. People insulted him, attacked him, slandered him. Yet he was never rushed by their ignorance. He chose his responses with wisdom, and many times he chose not to respond at all. That restraint was not weakness, it was power. He was teaching us that true strength lies not in how loudly you speak, but in how deeply you think and how sincerely you act. In a reaction-driven culture, patience is countercultural, deliberation is rare. But Allah loves those who pause for His sake. When you're hurt or angered and you hold back, not because you can't respond, but because you're more concerned with pleasing Allah than proving a point, that is a moment of worship. Social media has intensified this challenge. It's a space designed to provoke reaction. But not every argument is worth your voice. Not every trend deserves your attention. The believer doesn't jump into every debate or respond to every comment. The believer is focused on something greater, on preserving their heart, guarding their character, and earning Allah's pleasure. Avoiding reaction culture doesn't mean you become silent on matters of truth and justice. But it means you choose your moments wisely. You ask yourself, is this response for Allah or for my ego? Is this reaction going to heal or harm? Will this bring me closer to Jannah or just closer to an argument? Mastering your reactions is a sign of spiritual maturity. It protects your peace, polishes your character, and strengthens your connection with Allah. Because in the end, you're not here to prove yourself to people. You're here to be sincere before your Creator. Purifying your intentions is one of the most critical and constant struggles in the life of a believer. It's not something you do once and move on from. It's a lifelong process, a daily act of spiritual refinement. Everything we do, every word we speak, every step we take carries weight in the sight of Allah, but only when it is done sincerely for His sake. Without pure intentions, even the greatest of actions can become hollow. Intentions are hidden, no one sees them but Allah. That's what makes them so sacred and also so dangerous. It's easy to appear righteous in front of people, to say the right things, do the right acts, and show an image of devotion. But if the heart behind it is seeking praise, recognition, or validation, then the action may be impressive to others, but meaningless in the eyes of the one who truly matters. This is why the Prophet said that actions are judged by intentions. Two people can pray side by side, give the same amount in charity, or speak the same words of kindness. Yet one is earning the pleasure of Allah, and the other is only chasing the approval of people. What differentiates them is not the act itself, but the reason behind it. Purifying your intention means constantly asking yourself, why am I doing this? Who is this really for? Is this about me, or is this about Allah? It means being willing to strip away the layers of ego, pride, and desire for status, and returning to a place of sincerity. That sincerity is what gives life to your deeds. It's what allows even the smallest act, a smile, a silent duh, a kind thought, to carry immense weight on your scale. But sincerity is not easy. It's threatened by praise and wounded by criticism. When people praise us, we begin to enjoy it. When they criticize us, we may feel discouraged, and that's when the heart starts to shift, when our actions become dependent on how others respond. Purifying your intention is about rising above that. It's about doing good even when no one sees it, and staying firm even when no one applauds it. It's about doing what pleases Allah, whether or not it pleases the crowd. And the beautiful thing is, when your intentions are pure, your heart is at peace. You don't feel the need to prove yourself. You don't chase attention or validation. You're not shaken by people's opinions because you're grounded in your purpose. You know why you're doing what you're doing, and who you're doing it for. Allah does not look at our wealth, our appearance, or our achievements. He looks at our hearts. He sees what no one else sees. The quiet struggle, the hidden sincerity, the silent effort, and that's where His mercy descends. That's where true success lies. So keep checking your heart. Renew your intention constantly. Before you speak, before you act, before you serve, ask yourself, is this for Allah? Because the reward of a sincere act may far outweigh what the world considers great, and the weight of a corrupt intention may nullify even the most outwardly impressive deeds. In the end, it's not how much you do, but how purely you do it. Let your heart be for Allah and Allah alone. That is where true value lies. Tawakkul, trust in Allah, is one of the most liberating and powerful acts of faith a believer can embrace. It is not simply a concept we speak about in moments of ease, but a deep spiritual reliance that is tested when everything feels uncertain, when the path ahead is unclear, and when our own plans begin to unravel. Trusting in Allah means placing your full dependence on Him while doing your part, knowing that whatever unfolds is part of His perfect wisdom. True tawakkul is not passive. It does not mean sitting back and waiting for things to fall into place without effort. It means striving with all your heart, using every means Allah has given you, and then letting go of the anxiety over the results. It's the quiet surrender that says, Ya Allah, I've done my part. Now I place the outcome in your hands, because you know what I do not. When you trust Allah, you begin to let go of fear, not because you are certain of the future, but because you are certain of the one who controls it. You stop obsessing over every detail, you stop overanalyzing every delay, and you begin to find peace in the unknown. You recognize that even when things don't go your way, they are still going exactly according to His divine plan. What seems like a setback to you may be a setup for something greater. Tawakkul is most beautifully expressed in the lives of the prophets. When Abraham was thrown into the fire, he didn't know how he would be saved, but he trusted. When Musa stood before the sea with Pharaoh behind him, he didn't see the solution, but he trusted. When Miriam was alone in her labor pains under the palm tree, she didn't understand how help would come, but she trusted. And when the Prophet Muhammad hid in the cave with his companion as enemies closed in, he said with calm certainty, "Do not be afraid, Allah is with us." That is Tawakkul. It's easy to claim trust in Allah when life is going smoothly, but the true measure of Tawakkul is in the storm, when your heart is heavy, when your prayers seem unanswered, when the doors keep closing, and when you feel completely helpless. That is when your trust is either shaken or strengthened, and the one who says, "Hasbi Allah, huwa ni'mal wakil," Allah is sufficient for me, and He is the best disposer of affairs, with sincerity in those moments is holding onto a powerful rope that never breaks. Trusting Allah doesn't mean you won't feel pain, or that you'll always understand what's happening. It means that even in your confusion, you're confident in His wisdom. It means that you believe there is goodness, even in what breaks your heart, because Allah does not decree anything in vain. Every delay, every loss, every closed door is not a punishment but a redirection. Sometimes you're not being denied, you're being protected. Sometimes you're not being delayed, you're being prepared. Tawakkul fills the heart with peace. It silences the whispers of worry. It reminds you that your life is in the hands of the most merciful, the most just, the most loving. And when you live with that kind of trust, you walk through life with a quiet strength. You don't crumble under uncertainty. You rise with faith, so keep taking the steps. Keep making the does, keep working and trying. But release the outcome. Place it in the hands of the one who never fails. Because when your heart truly trusts Allah, you will never be disappointed. No matter how things unfold. There is something deeply comforting and profoundly humbling about understanding the concept of divine timing. It is the belief that everything happens not just for a reason, but at the exact moment it is meant to happen. No sooner, no later. In a world obsessed with instant results and immediate gratification, divine timing teaches us patience, trust, and surrender. It reminds us that we are not in control of the clock Allah is. As human beings, we often have our own timelines. We plan, we set goals, we hope for certain outcomes by a certain age or within a specific season of life. And when things don't go according to that plan, we begin to feel anxious, disappointed, and even doubtful. But divine timing is a reminder that what is meant for you will come to you, not when you want it, but when Allah knows it is best for you. Delays are not denials, they are often divine detours meant to prepare you, protect you, or teach you something you would not have learned otherwise. You may be praying for something with all your heart, and it may feel like the answer is being withheld. But what you don't see is that Allah is arranging things behind the scenes, aligning people, places, and circumstances in ways your heart could never comprehend. Sometimes the waiting itself is the mercy. Sometimes what feels like silence is actually Allah softening your heart to receive something greater than you asked for. When you rush the process, you risk arriving at something before you're ready. And when you force outcomes, you may end up with things that were never meant for you. Divine timing teaches you that being ready spiritually is more important than being ready externally. It's not just about getting what you want. It's about being who you need to be when it arrives. The story of Yusuf is a powerful example of divine timing. From the betrayal of his brothers to being thrown into a well, from years of unjust imprisonment to eventually rising to a position of power. None of it happened by accident. Every hardship was a step in a divine plan that unfolded with precision and wisdom. Had Yusuf been freed from prison too early, he would have missed the opportunity to interpret the king's dream. Had he remained in the well, he would never have made it to Egypt. Every delay was actually part of his elevation. Divine timing also reminds us that Allah knows what we don't. He sees the future. He knows the unseen. What you're so eager to receive now might bring you harm if given prematurely. And what you think is a missed opportunity might actually be a door closing so that a better one can open later. Allah's timing is based on His knowledge, not our impatience. This understanding brings peace to the heart. It removes the pressure to rush through life. It teaches you to slow down, breathe, and trust. It gives you the strength to keep making dua, even when it seems like nothing is changing, because you know that something is changing. You just can't see it yet. So when things feel delayed, don't lose hope. Don't think you've been forgotten. Know that your dua is not ignored and your efforts are not wasted. Trust that Allah's timing is always on time. It may not align with your calendar, but it is perfectly aligned with your destiny. And when it finally arrives, you'll look back and realize that the wait wasn't a burden. It was part of the blessing. Some of the greatest victories in life are not the ones others see or celebrate. They are the quiet triumphs that happen deep within a person, the battles no one knows about, the struggles fought behind closed doors, the pain endured in silence. These are the silent battles, and though the world may never applaud them, they are honored and rewarded by the one who sees all. There is a unique strength in carrying wounds that no one else can see and still showing up with faith, still praying, still smiling, still choosing patience. The silent battle could be a heart trying to heal from betrayal, a mind wrestling with doubt, or a soul striving to stay sincere while surrounded by temptation. These battles don't make headlines, but they shape character and draw a person closer to Allah in ways nothing else can. Victory in these moments doesn't always look like success to the outside world. It might be as simple as refusing to respond to a hurtful comment, forgiving someone who will never apologize, waking up for Fajr after a night of tears, or making dua when your heart feels numb. These acts may seem small, but in the sight of Allah, they are massive, because they represent moments when the believer chose faith over despair, discipline over desire, and Allah over their own ego. Silent battles are often the most difficult because they come with no recognition. No one sees the tears shed in sujud, the private repentance, the inner war to let go of a sin, or the effort to hold on to hope when everything seems dark. But this is where sincerity is born, when you fight only for Allah when your struggle is hidden, and your strength comes not from being praised but from being connected to the one who never leaves you. These battles are loud in the heavens even if they're silent on earth. Angels witness them, Allah honors them, and the reward for such struggles is immense. Sometimes, a person rises in rank with Allah not because of what they achieved publicly, but because of what they endured privately. A believer who holds on to their deen in hardship, who keeps returning to Allah even when their heart feels broken, is stronger than many who appear firm from the outside but are untested within. There is also a beauty in knowing that your pain has a purpose, that your silent battle is not in vain. Allah never allows a tear to fall, a prayer to be whispered, or a hardship to be borne without reward. Every difficulty you endure for His sake is planting seeds of victory, even if you can't see the harvest yet. And when Allah finally brings you through it, the victory will be loud, not always to the people but to your soul. The peace, clarity, and closeness to Allah you gain is a victory greater than anything the world could offer. So never belittle your silent battles. They are shaping you in ways that are unseen but deeply significant. Stay patient, keep fighting, keep turning to Allah in your weakness, and you'll find that He grants you strength beyond measure. Because those who fight in silence for His sake will be honored loudly in ways only He can give. The life of the Prophet Muhammad is the most profound example of inner strength, patience, and unwavering trust in Allah. His example is not just found in the grand victories, the public miracles, or the celebrated milestones. It's found in the quiet moments of restraint, the tears shed in prayer, the mercy shown to enemies, and the strength to carry on when the world turned its back on him. The prophetic example teaches us that greatness begins in the heart, in the unseen spaces where sincerity, perseverance, and trust are built. From the very beginning of his mission, the prophet endured rejection, humiliation, and physical harm. He was called a liar by people who once admired his truthfulness. He was driven out of his hometown by those who knew his character best. He buried his children with his own hands and endured the loss of loved ones who were closest to him. Yet through every hardship, he remained focused, composed, and spiritually grounded. Not once did he waver in his mission, nor did he lose hope in Allah's plan. What stands out most is how he responded, not with anger, not with haste, but with grace. When he was insulted, he chose silence. When he was attacked, he responded with patience. When he was offered power and wealth in exchange for compromise, he declined with dignity. His strength wasn't in how loudly he spoke, but in how consistently he lived the truth. His victories were not only in battles fought on the field, but in battles won within the soul, choosing mercy when he had every right to retaliate, choosing dua when he could have acted in vengeance. His nights were spent in quiet worship, his feet swollen from long hours in prayer, even though his past and future sins were forgiven. Why? Because he was showing us that the foundation of all strength is built in the unseen connection with Allah. He turned to his Lord in every moment of hardship, seeking guidance, comfort, and clarity. When the pressure of his mission became too heavy, he didn't break, he prayed. When the people rejected him, he didn't despair, he trusted. He knew that victory was not in immediate results, but in remaining firm upon the truth, no matter the cost. Even in triumph, he remained humble. When he entered Makkah at the height of victory, he did not gloat or seek revenge. His head was lowered in humility, he forgave those who had persecuted him. That moment alone speaks volumes about his character. It shows that real power is not about dominating others, but about having the strength to rise above the ego. The prophetic example reminds us that success is not always seen, but always felt by the one who walks sincerely with Allah. It teaches us that staying silent in the face of ignorance, focusing within when the world is noisy, and trusting in Allah's plan when nothing makes sense, these are not signs of weakness, but the marks of prophetic strength. To follow him is to strive for that same balance of inner calm and outward conviction, of silent struggle and sincere action. His life is proof that with deep faith, quiet strength, and pure intention, even the heaviest burdens can be carried, and even the hardest paths can lead to divine victory. In a world that constantly demands noise, reaction, and validation, the path of the believer is one of quiet strength, inward focus, and deep trust in Allah. Staying silent is not weakness, it is wisdom. It is choosing to preserve your heart, to respond with purpose, and to rise above the chaos. Focusing within allows you to cultivate sincerity, purify your intentions, and win the silent battles that no one sees but Allah never misses. And trusting in Allah's plan, in His perfect timing and divine wisdom, gives you the peace to keep moving even when the road is unclear. Every prophet, especially our beloved Prophet Muhammad, walked this path, responding to ignorance with dignity, enduring hardship with patience, and placing full reliance on Allah with every breath. His example teaches us that true victory is not measured by public applause, but by the serenity of a heart anchored in faith. It is not about being heard the loudest, but about being seen by Allah in your most sincere moments. So remain steadfast, be still when needed, speak only with purpose, purify your intentions, trust the process, and know that the quiet moments of your life, if lived sincerely for Allah, will echo loudly in the hereafter. This is the legacy of those who walk with purpose, guided by the light of silence, sincerity, and submission to their Lord. Thank you, everyone.